Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here today. My name is Carlos Ranchetti, your host for the evening, and I'm very excited to be hosting the very first The Student World live show. What I hope can be from now on your go-to place for all things related to study abroad. Folks, welcome again. And as we wait a little bit for more people to jump in this brand new live, I'm gonna share with you a little bit of the details of today's live. Um, First, today's live is gonna be about 50 minutes to 1 hour. It's going to be divided in two parts, actually. The first part will be bringing on two very experienced university staff. One from a university in Canada and another one from a university in the UK, who has been helping students over years to study abroad. So we're very excited to have the two of them here. And in the second part, we're gonna bring a student who's gonna talk a little bit about her experience studying abroad. Now, folks, as you saw, the topic of today's live is how to pursue your studies during this pandemic. I'm sure many of you who had this plan of studying abroad, once the pandemic hit, started asking yourself, what about now, right? What should I do? What can I do? Do I have to, can I just postpone my plans, or can I do something meanwhile? You have probably many questions, and it is because you have many questions that the student world listened to you and decided to come up with this live where we're going to be talking about what you can do to pursue your plans to study abroad during this COVID-19 crisis. Right, folks? So bear with me while I introduce you to the first two guests. The first one is Jane Black. She is from the University of Westminster, and this in London, UK. And the second one is Ryan Sullivan. He's from St. Thomas University in Canada. Now, folks, we are very excited to get this thing going. Again, don't forget, this is the first live we're having, so we would be thrilled to have your comments. Again, this is meant to be fun, interactive, and informal. So please don't let me be talking here by myself for a long time. Comment, send your questions. If you're not liking the live, you can say it as well. That's not a problem. Anything that can help us get better and better, because our goal, the essence of what we're doing here, is we want to help you get your plans of studying abroad going. Okay. So thanks a lot for joining here. And while we welcome the first two guests, why don't you write down here where the city where you're watching us from? Okay. So put here in the chat the city where you're watching us from. And we'll be bringing shortly these two first guests. Again, just make sure that, also very important, folks, if you do like what you're watching, if you do like what the student world is doing here, don't forget to like our live, because the more likes we have, the more fuel we have to keep going. All right. Okay. So let me now, without any further ado, I'm going to bring these two amazing guests that I have the pleasure to talk to today. Okay. Please, folks, welcome Ryan Sullivan and Jane Black. Hello, guys. So happy to have you here. Welcome to the Student World Live Show. How are you doing today?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing good, thanks. How are you, Jane?
London. Good, thank you. That was quite an introduction. I hope we live up to it.
Great. Well, I didn't say any lies. You are two very experienced recruiters, and I'm sure that there'll be lots of tips and good advice for the many of our fellow students that are watching us now here. Okay, guys. So why don't we start by actually introducing yourselves? So maybe Jane, you want to go first, saying what you do and a little bit of your story.
Sure. So I obviously currently work at the University of Westminster in London, in England. And I've been at Westminster for several years, but I've been in international education in some form for more than 20 years. I am from London, so I really enjoy welcoming international students to London. And I've also had the experience of living overseas. I've lived in Mexico and Australia. So yeah, that's probably a bit about me.
Oh my God, that's exciting. Where in Mexico?
Culiacan.
Cool. All right. How about you, Ryan?
Well, similar to Jane, I've been in the industry for about 20 years now, or actually just over 20 years. I've worked at St. Thomas University for a good number of those years, but also spent about 5 years working at a 2-year college, also here in Canada, and have worked not only in admissions and specifically in international admissions, but also in residence life and student services as well. So hopefully be able to answer questions, whether it's about admissions or other aspects of the university or college life in Canada.
Awesome. Amazing. Folks, again, I mentioned this at the opening, but do please send your questions here on the chat. We have access. We have our whole team here who I have to thank for all the support putting this live together. And so please, yeah, send your questions, your comments if you like, if you don't like, whatever you have to say, we would love to hear it. Okay, guys. So again, the topic of this of this live is how to pursue your studies during this uncertain times that we are surrounded by, right? My first question, I think, is what has changed in terms of what has changed for people that were actually planning or still planning, have plans to go abroad with this whole situation now?
So I think it's the uncertainty of everything from the past year. Wherever you are and wherever you're planning to study, it's the change to what's probably a normal process. I would say there's quite a structured process of dates and application. And also for you, if you're finishing education, of taking exams or knowing when your college will finish and you'll get your transcripts. And all of that has obviously been thrown up in the air. But I think especially over months and over time, institutions everywhere have really adjusted to that and are trying to be as flexible as possible to help students.
Right. And would you like to add something, Ryan?
Sure. I think Jane has certainly articulated the biggest change that I've seen. And in addition to that, I would suggest that just the apprehension that some families have shared that they may not have typically had or experienced before, and around that uncertainty. So there's the technical pieces of trying to access transcripts or exam results and working with the different colleges and universities. But it's also just that uncertainty of what will travel look like, what mobility will be available to them. So we're spending a lot of time talking to students about understanding how to still go through the process while recognizing they're going to have to be that much more adaptable and flexible with their plans as they go through the experience.
Awesome. And guys, so basically, if we can get more into the practical elements of this, of the whole application and everything, what can students do right now and what they still need to wait in terms of the application process itself?
Sure. So maybe Jane, I'll go first on this one in the sense that, a lot of the process is still the same of what a student needs to do, doing research, understanding what their interests are, trying to determine, what is the best fit for them. So those aspects of that search process or identifying where they want to study, that part hasn't changed so much. But what has changed is, like Jane had mentioned, just the timelines and being sure that they, work to ensure that they're meeting all of these different deadlines that might be there. And yes, universities and colleges are being more flexible around that and recognizing the predicaments around the world are very different, but still trying to be that much more ahead of what they may normally have been. And in very specifically, I think about not only is it about meeting the needs and the requirements of the universities or the educational institution that they're studying, it's also recognize what government or what federal regulations are going to be in place outside of their typical visa or study permit process, but also the health component. So making sure that they're getting their plans in place early, so that they can then make sure that they're researching and knowing kind of all the different pieces that they'll have to meet in order to be successful in getting to the place they want to study.
Yeah, excellent. And Jane, before you comment on that, I just wanted to add another thing. Like, you probably have been in contact with students during this whole time. What would you also say that you have noticed in terms of the concerns they're having now, the challenges they're facing now? What could you share with us?
I think it is mainly for prospective students who are planning to study. It is about wondering about what the future holds and how things will be. So I think it's exactly that. It's about planning and preparing, and now is also a really great opportunity because there are so many virtual events, and there are sessions like this, and there are ways to probably find out about universities all around the world that you maybe wouldn't have had the opportunity to do so before, depending where you are. Everyone's doing virtual open events, and people are doing talks about subjects. So it's great to start researching and looking into your options. And I think that it is about preparing, but also maybe just being open and waiting, and knowing that you need to be a bit flexible because the situation is a little fluid, and to start now, but wait to see, and don't make your final concrete plans. I think often students they've decided and they have a dream where they want to be and where they want to go, and it will happen, but maybe you just need to be a bit more open to quite when it will happen and when you confirm.
Yes, absolutely. And you know, guys, I mean, here at the Student World, we've been in close contact with many students for quite some time now. And many of the people that are actually go abroad, they only have the opportunity to go once, right? Either for an undergraduate, a bachelor, or even a postgrad or language or whatever, but they don't have the means to go more than one time. So folks, for all of you now, maybe why don't you get this time, right? Get the lemons and make the lemonade. So get this time, the extra time, since we're now having to stand by a little bit, and put a little bit more effort into the research, right? Really, because maybe you can get the opportunity to find the really best option for you. Because, you know, this is the match between a university and a student it's a match itself, right? It's not a thing that this university will be great for all these students. No, sometimes you want to study in a smaller city and a big city. Sometimes you want a university that is more research focused. Sometimes you want a university that has more diverse. So really put the time now to do a lot of research and really try to be assertive when you pick the university. And again, like Ryan and Jane here, who represents two great universities, many of admission officers, they're available through virtual events on the internet. That'll be a great chance for you to talk to as many as you can and try to collect all the information. Again, make sure that everything is ready for when the time comes, and I'm sure it will come. You're ready for that. So guys, carrying on here now. I wanted to talk a little bit about this part that I was just mentioning, the part of comparing university, comparing options, right? Everybody go through that, right? They they started like, I want to go study in this place, in this country, and then they see all the opportunities, all the institutions that offers what they want. And in that part specifically about comparing, well, what do you notice now as the new elements that they need to take into account, they need to bring to the equation when choosing where to study now in this post-COVID era? Maybe we can start with you, Ryan.
Yeah, it's a really good question. And, to Jane's point too, and to your point around just the plethora of information that's available to students right now, it's actually, in a lot of ways, like you said, we're more accessible as university and college representatives to students around the world than we've ever been before. But as I travel the world in my role of working with students and going to fairs, the number of times that I have a student who'd say to me, well, what's the best university for whatever they're looking for? Like, what's number one or what's the best? And I always, take some time and try to talk to students about understanding, like, what is best for you? That's the question. Like, what is the right fit? What are the things that are important to you? If you want to be in a big city and you want to live in that lifestyle, then joining Jane in London is probably going to be, it is going to be a much better choice than coming and joining me at St. Thomas University, where we're in a small city. If the city itself is important, that's a big thing. So it's about kind of ranking what's important to you. But I guess that's not different because of the pandemic. When I think about maybe like what's different because of the pandemic is maybe, things that are that may not have been as crucial for you to understand about your preferences before are even more important now. Understanding how are the jurisdiction or the country that you're looking at, like how have they been responding to the situation, and how are they making it better for international students? What are they doing to accommodate students? How did they work with students in crisis? Like things like smaller details like that may be more relative because of the pandemic might be things that you want to research a little bit more than you would have normally.
Cool. How about you, Jane? Would you like to, how do you see this?
Exactly. It's still about choosing your program, choosing about the environment you want to study in, and then the kind of the principles and the ethos of the institution that you want to be at. But I think for this, obviously, with the pandemic, then when you've looked and you're choosing between institutions, then I think it's definitely important to ask about policies around if you need to postpone your studies, because it might well be that it's fine to come to London in September, but it's difficult for you in the country that you're in, and you have to be, so you want to know that the institution, the flexibility that they will offer, things around refunds and the support services that are in place. So whether that's, if you need to quarantine and you need your accommodation to help out with that, or, those first couple of weeks, you need to know you've got that online support, or just knowing in addition who can be there to help through the few months as you adjust, and there may be different social restrictions coming and going wherever you're going to study. So I guess it's just about asking all of that, and almost all universities have got that information on their website, and if you don't know or you're not sure, you can contact the international teams like Ryan and I and ask anything. Or there are lots of resources by country. So just as Ryan said, if you're looking for, you've decided on the country destination and you're wanting to know those requirements and updates, then there are some fantastic resources by country specifically for international students to keep updated on any changes.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, bring in I think a topic that both of you mentioned on your answers. The fact that how accommodating each institution will be, right, for now on for the students, because we'll be dealing with, I think, a lot of students, a lot of them will be coming like super concerned with all the healthy aspects. How protected will I be? How in terms of anything related. So my question now, bringing more specific to St. Thomas and to Westminster, what have you been talking already, discussing internally? What are you guys going to do in terms of measures to make the universities more accommodating to these future students?
Shall I go first? So yeah. I think, again, I think that all institutions, it's about the well-being and welfare of students. So we're all putting similar things into place. And that's from supporting students through quarantine periods, obviously all the extra additional cleaning and health support, mental health support. It's University Mental Health Day today in the UK, so that's been really important to keep up with events and support online. But I think there are, I don't know, maybe you want to take over, Ryan. There are so many.
Sure. Yeah, I think those are all really good points and things that we've looked at addressing as well. And the mental health piece, Jane, is a really important one, especially for our current students, our international students who are, if they've been still here in country in Canada and that they've been not able to get home, even if they wanted to. We had students who, even when the pandemic first started, had started a journey home only to have their home country borders close and then return. And so we've done a lot of work in making sure that students have the supports that they need. The other piece that we do as a collective of university representatives, working with our local provincial governments or our federal governments around policy development, and then ensuring that the voice of students is heard when looking at how things like requirements for isolation and making sure that students are considered. As an example of that, right now, for anyone who travels to Canada, there are only 4 airports in Canada right now that international arrivals are permitted because of the pandemic. And there's a 3-day isolation period at the expense of the traveler. But through the work of the universities and colleges with the federal government, we were able to ensure that international students traveling for that requirement of travel were exempt from that and could travel to their destination, to the university or college, and isolate there so that they wouldn't have that type of expense. So they're still isolating, still keeping each other safe, but not necessarily through kind of the regular process of other international travelers. So that's sort of an important role that we've been playing as a collective here in Canada to ensure the betterment of students and making sure that their interests are kept top of mind for our policy developers here in Canada.
And I think I should say for applicants, for people who are considering study, it's all about what's been put in place in terms of accepting maybe slightly different grading this year, about contacts for admissions or international teams to get in touch if your exams have been cancelled, and trying to help and support students in that position. So don't let that put you off. If things have changed, you can still apply. And then also knowing that so at Westminster, you can postpone your study, you can defer, we call it deferring in the UK. So you can postpone your study, so you can apply to start in September, but you may change your mind, and you don't have to make a final commitment until, much nearer to the time of joining. So I think we've worked quite a lot around ensuring that there are refunds for people who cancel accommodation or suddenly aren't able to travel for the first couple of months. And I'm sure that's the same in Canada as well.
That's a really good point, and that flexibility in working with students. And I think that's going back again to an earlier point, Jane, that you made, was reaching out to the institution. Don't be shy about asking those questions, making connections with our teams, and letting us know that, well, I'm missing a document because this was canceled or this was postponed, and we'll work with you on that. And another example I don't know about in the UK, but in Canada this year, typically our English proficiency test scores were they'd be done by TOEFL or IELTS, where it's a physical setting where students have to go and be placed. And of course, many of those testing centers had to close during the pandemic. We worked with another provider, Duolingo, that offered language testing from home for students. And so we were able to adapt and allow for that. We also made exceptions where students could self-submit scores or self-submit transcripts or what they had, because sometimes their institutions were closed. And so just reaching out and having those conversations. We work with students from all over the world, so we're not necessarily going to be up to date on what's happening in every single market. So for you as a student to be able to reach out and give us some information, let us know what you're dealing with, that we can then work with you and make sure that we can still facilitate the application process is really important. So I guess number one thing is don't be shy. Let us know what we can do to help.
Great. And yes, and guys, bringing on that all those things that you mentioned there, the two of your universities, they are doing. I think that's something that will play a big part in terms of the student decision, like to see that universities that are really going the extra mile in terms of, trying to really make for students. I think that will put them in a whole new level. And I'm happy to see that Westminster and St. Thomas are doing that. But again, folks, as Ryan was saying here, I think there are two main words here today: flexibility. So we need to accept these uncertain times, right? That's the number one thing. And the second thing that we mentioned at the beginning is, like, it doesn't mean that you cannot go on and keep carrying on planning, especially doing a lot of research, reaching out to nice folks like Ryan and Jane, who are there to help you guys, and really do all the research, try to compare the best options, collecting tons of information, anything that will help you be more assertive when you pick the university. So these two things, I think time was given to all of us. Now it's up to us what we do with that extra time, right? So that might be a good one. So carry on, guys, because we're reaching our final minutes here. There are some questions that I wanted to ask you, but I know that you might not be able to answer, right? First one is that, so I think I know the answer, but so Canada and UK, are you already accepting international students? If no, is there any idea or prediction when will you start accepting new students, or no, impossible to say, and so on? Jane, why didn't you go first?
We're open for applications. We were last year as well. We had students arrive, obviously some postponed, some studied online. Plans at the moment, we don't know anything for sure, but plans are to have on-site teaching from September. And we're taking applications at the moment, for both undergrad and postgraduate.
Awesome. What about in Canada?
Certainly, same as Jane on the university front. We are definitely receiving lots of applications, which is great. It's a great sense of excitement for this post-pandemic. I will also mention that we've had students who have been traveling throughout the pandemic to Canada and to St. Thomas because perhaps they just did not have the access to the technology at home, the broadband that they might need to study remotely. So while we are remote this year, we did still have students who came here to make sure they could access. We have students living in our residences, our dormitories, who are doing that. And the government of Canada has indicated they are prioritizing international students who are applying for their study permits and visas. That is an important point to note, because if you go on the Immigration Canada website and you see the processing time right now for visas, it can be quite long, but we've had assurances from Immigration Canada that for those students, international students who have completed study permit applications that they're submitting, the wait times and the processing times is less than what's being published. And so it's important to note, still do it early and get everything in there, but make sure it is complete before you submit it. But I understand, I believe that the UK is the same, like the government is processing study permits, visas.
Yeah, I mean, it does depend. Always checking in your country, I think what's happening but any problems, any delays, then get in touch for us. But yeah, we're open.
Cool. All right. So see, a lot of at least I'm surprised with some of these answers. I mean, I think there are a lot of good news coming up from DISC. Okay. So just to finish, guys, the last question I wanted to ask is that, what message do you want to pass to those that are the main audience here today, the people that are hopeful that this will pass and that they will be able to have the experience of a lifetime, right? What message could you pass to them? Maybe you can start this one, Ryan.
I'm very optimistic that we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, that we will see that this vaccination rollout across the globe is going to be unprecedented success, and we're going to see students traveling like we've never seen them travel before, and there'll be lots of mobility again, and that will be just really kind of the roaring 20s of the 20th century as opposed to the 19th century will be upon us, and there's lots of great times ahead. Absolutely.
What about you, Jane?
I don't think I could put it better. So yes, just really looking forward to telling students that yes, it's time to apply. It's time to start making your plans. Keep them a little bit open, but it will happen. And we're looking forward to welcoming you when we're able to.
Excellent. All right. Thanks a lot, guys, for joining us here today. Again, Ryan Sullivan from St. Thomas University, Jane Black from Westminster University, two excellent universities here. Thank you so much. This is a very special live for us. This is the first of this new show that we're coming up here in the student world. So I really, really appreciate your time and your acceptance in joining us here today. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
All right, folks, and we're gonna go. This was the first part of this live. Now we're gonna go for a quick 1-minute break, but don't dare leaving your cell phone or computer, because we're gonna be right back with interviewing a student that was studying abroad when the pandemic hit, and she's gonna be here sharing what she felt everything that went through her mind. And it's going to be quite interesting, I guarantee. So we're going to go for a quick break. Before we do that, hit the like and the subscribe button. Don't forget, there's way more coming up here at the Student World Live Show the following weeks. And again, our goal is to help you go abroad. The Student World, whatever you want to study, we know how to get you there. And we're back here with the Student World Live Show's second part, everybody. Don't forget again to click the like button here so we know that you're enjoying the show. If you're not enjoying the show, it's okay. Click on dislike. I didn't like it. I didn't think it was useful. It's fine, folks. We will always try to get better. And yeah, so now without further ado, I want to welcome the Alicia Tolentino. Alicia Tolentino is a student, and she's going to be sharing a lot of experience right now. So please, folks, welcome Alicia Tolentino to the show. Hello, Alicia. Welcome to the Student World Live Show. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Alicia, again, thank you so much for making yourself available to be here with us today. I think you have a lot of experience to share with everybody that is here with me. I'm super curious to hear more. I know we talked in the backstage, but I'm looking forward to hear more. And again, I'm sure all our audience is also super curious. So why don't you start telling a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I'm Alyssa. I'm from the United States in New Jersey, where I'm studying diplomacy and international relations at Seton Hall University. Last spring, I did decide to study abroad in France. And I studied abroad through the American Institute of Foreign Study, AIFS, and unfortunately I was sent home due to the coronavirus pandemic. I was there from January until about mid-March before I was sent back to the United States.
Oh, wow. We're going to get to that part yet. But before we get to the part where you were studying and the whole pandemic thing hit, let's go back a little bit and tell a little bit of how the decision of studying abroad came up, because I might be wrong here, but in the U.S., different from other places like Latin America or Asia, going abroad is not that common, right? So how did you come up with this decision? Did you have friends that went there and they started sharing it's super cool, let's do it, and Can you share a little bit of how the decision took place?
Yeah, so I started studying the language French in high school, and I just completely fell in love with it. I fell in love with the culture. My teacher would show us pictures from when she studied abroad in France. And so she kind of started just inspiring me to go after that when I ended up going to college. And when I got to college, I was very surprised. Like you said, it's not very common for Americans to want to study abroad. I think the number is only 10% of students in America study abroad. So it was definitely a lot of planning on my part. But from the get-go, as a freshman here at Seton Hall, I wanted to go. I was talking to every single advisor, what do I need to do to get there? And luckily I was able to go in my junior year. So it's definitely just been in the works ever since I started learning French. And I'm so glad that I got to go.
And how was it at the beginning when you first got to the university? First, welcoming session, first day there. What was your first impression?
I was just so excited. It was really, really fun to just walk around and get to know the city that I would be calling home. I was in Grenoble, France, which is in the Alps. So it was kind of crazy. I was stunned every single day just walking around surrounded by these gorgeous mountains and everything. And the people were just so nice as well. I went with the goal of becoming fluent in French. And I was just so taken aback by how kind and friendly the locals were in helping me make that goal come to reality while I was there. The professors as well at my university were just so experienced in teaching foreign students the language. I was in class with students from all over the world, so it was definitely just such a surreal experience just being there. It kind of felt like a dream.
Cool. So just like in any movie, then you start a movie and everything is going great, and then boom, something happens, right? Can you tell us a little bit of that boom part when first, the stories about this virus coming up in Asia and suddenly it hits Europe strong. How was it?
I remember packing for my semester abroad in January, and my dad has always been up with the news, and he was like, "Well, there's a virus starting in China. You might want to pack like extra masks." And I thought that was crazy. I thought that why would I need these? Okay, I'll put them in my suitcase anyway for him. And then when February hit and it started getting bad in Italy, I did have a friend who was studying abroad in Florence. So he was keeping us up to date on all that was transpiring there. And I remember talking with my roommate and my friends I had made in France and thinking, is it going to get bad here? No, like we were very much in denial. And then we actually took a trip to Milan on a weekend trip. And when we got back, the university kind of announced that it's getting pretty bad. You might want to quarantine. And that was just so crazy to me, thinking that just a few months ago, I was not worried about it, thinking it's going to blow over. And now all of a sudden, everything was changing. I did need the masks that my dad gave me. And after that, it became kind of are we going to get sent home? So there was a lot of uncertainty around that. Everything kind of just hit the brakes. And eventually we did get the call that we would have to go back to the United States.
Oh, wow. And so at the moment, where were you living? Were you like in a student residence, sharing an apartment with someone, or what was your living situation there?
I did live in a student residence, and there were students from all over the world living there. And I remember when it started getting bad in France, a lot of the students from the neighboring countries just packed up and left. And I was living with a roommate, and she's one of my best friends from here at Seton Hall. So it was really nice that we got to do this together, and I was so grateful to have her there so we could kind of talk each other off the ledge, thinking everything's gonna be okay.
Oh, cool. So you had someone like that you knew, so that was great. And I was studying abroad myself. Interesting thing, guys. It's not about me, but anyway, I was studying abroad myself, and I was in Manchester when the pandemic hit. And in our case, they turned our classes into fully virtual, fully online, right? And I remember I ended up, like, when I was booking the place to stay in Manchester, it would be 6 months period for a master's. And I said, I'm just going to book a small room, because, I'm going to spend the whole day away. And then boom, the pandemic hit, everyone in quarantine. And I found myself in that very small place. I could almost reach the the door and the window with my arms. But anyway, so I even lost what I was thinking here. But the thing what I was trying to say is that it really affects men, right? Emotionally and all that, to stay in quarantine, to be with that imminent threat of something that is coming. It's almost like that shark music. There are sharks coming. So what did you do to keep yourself like positive and keep yourself try to at least enjoy a little bit? I mean, after all, you were in another country, you were having the experience that many people say the experience of a lifetime. So what did you do to keep yourself like up?
Yeah, it was definitely nice having my best friend there and leaning on each other. But I also met so many amazing people while I was studying abroad within my program and at my university. And we definitely, if we needed to have a talk and talk about our anxieties, we just let them all out, sit in a cafe and just talk it through with each other. And we all were just feeling the exact same thing. So it was really such a good support system. And even if it was starting to get scary when we didn't have to get quarantined quite yet, we would just take advantage of every single day that we had, like walking by the river, just always being out, like you said, just never going to be in our rooms. So we definitely took full advantage of just staying positive through like hanging out with each other and just exploring the city we were in more.
Yeah, so at least you still had some social contact, right? Interaction. Yeah, it makes a big difference. All right then, and okay, let's. We have a lot of people commenting here on our YouTube. But before we move over to the chat, I wanted to ask you, like, again, most of our audience here probably they never study abroad properly, right? Not properly, but they never study abroad. So what would you say, how would you compare an experience going to college, going to university in your city, New Jersey, and having this experience going and study in another country?
It was definitely a change of pace for sure. Academic wise, in school here, I tell everyone I am not a morning person by any means. I schedule all of my classes after 11 a.m., but over there, I didn't get to choose when my classes would be. And I did get classes that started at 8 a.m. So it was definitely a learning curve of getting used to how the professors taught, getting used to even just commuting to the university on the trams and everything. But social wise and just generally the differences between the US and France, I just felt like everything was so much slower and I really appreciated that. I live right by New York City. I lived in New York City. And so I'm very much used to the hustle and bustle of a big city, which is one of the reasons why I chose a smaller city to begin with when I studied abroad in France. And it was really nice just to take my time walking in the fresh air and sitting in a cafe for hours or at a restaurant. So I definitely took some of that laid back stuff back with me to the United States.
Amazing. Yeah. You went for something that is different than what you were used to. Smart choice. All right, then. Okay, so for my last question for you, Alicia, is a word of advice. What can you tell? Like, you know what it's like to be studying abroad in a crazy situation, right? You lived that. You went through that. Now, what can you say to those that are right now planning to hopefully go abroad in a better scenario, in a, where the whole thing, at least the worst, has passed? What can you say to those people that are now questioning if they should or should not go?
I would just say go for it. I think that studying abroad is one of the best experiences to get out of your comfort zone and to grow personally, academically. I've definitely become more adaptable, even on top of studying abroad in a completely different country, but studying abroad during a pandemic. So you definitely learn to grow and you just learn so many new things about yourself that you didn't know, and you just open yourself up more to what else is on in the whole big world. So I think that my biggest advice is just to do it, to get yourself out there and to take advantage of every single day, because as we've seen, everything can change in an instant, in a day.
Amen. All right. And before I forget, would you like to share a little bit about your blog post, the one where you wrote my experience study abroad during COVID-19? Where can our audience, where can they check that? Do you know the link or something?
It is on AIFS's website, so that's AIFS.com, and they are an agency that hosts and send students all around the world to study abroad. And I am working for them right now as an alumni ambassador after having studied abroad. So I wrote that blog post in mind, knowing that people are really worried if they're going to be able to study abroad right now. So definitely check it out.
All right, folks, you heard her. So my experience studying abroad during COVID-19, don't forget to check it out, her blog post. One of the reasons why she is a guest of today here, we read it and we love what she wrote there. Again, Alicia, thank you so much for being in our very first live here. It is a pleasure to have you here. Congratulations on all the, on being able to go through everything that you went through. It hasn't been easy, I'm sure, but I'm happy to see that you're well now, back home, and carrying on with your education. Congratulations. Thank you so much. And I hope to see you soon back here.
Thanks so much.
All right, folks. That was it, basically. Our very first The Student World live show. I hope you have enjoyed. It was a bit of a 46 minutes, more or less. Now it's 9:46 p.m. Central European Time, 5:46 in Brazil, and not sure where you are, what time will be. But anyway, thanks a lot for being here today. Again, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to see more of these lives coming up. We're going to have more guests, more topics, and again, with all of them answering the same question: how can we help you carry on your study abroad plans? All right, folks, that's why we are here. That's the purpose of what we do. And before I forget anything, so make sure you leave a like here or a dislike. If you don't like, this is a good thing for us to see if we're on the right track or not. And again, thank you so much. I want to give a special thanks to the team behind the Student World Live show. My very dear colleagues, Martin Locre from Argentina/USA, Ana Sanchez from Brazil, Taina Tanizawa from Brazil as well, and Carla Plasencia from Mexico. Guys, you all rock. Thank you so much for getting things together here and allowing us to be broadcasting today live to thousands of people. Again, thank you so much for joining us, and I hope to see you again in the next live that we'll be hosting. Thank you.